Hello and welcome to UC Today. My name's David Dungay. Today I am joined by Peter and Greg from EvolveIP. Welcome, guys. I hope you're both well.
We are.
Doing great.
Fantastic.
Thanks for having us, David.
So today we're going to be talking about operational and cost efficiencies when it comes to integrating your UCaaS and CCaaS propositions. But before we get into that conversation, let's do a round of introductions. Peter, do you want to go first? Tell us a little bit about yourself and EvolveIP.
Sure. I'm Pete Eisengrein. I am one of the founding partners and executive vice president at EvolveIP. The voice engineering team rolls up under me globally. So anything that carries voice or video is under my purview. And EvolveIP is a cloud services provider. We focus on unified communications, contact center as a service, and desktop as a service. So those are our three major swim lanes.
Fantastic. And Greg, tell us who you are.
Hi, I'm Greg Sullivan, Senior Manager of Contact Center Solutions here. My team is responsible for doing our end user implementations post-sales for our Evolve Contact Suite, or is what we call ECS, is our omni-channel contact suite. And so we do a lot of work with our frontline customers, standing up their omni-channel contact center, bringing it from nothing to a fully customized software platform for their customer service needs.
Great. So let's get stuck into our conversation today. You can't read the mainstream media without reading the doom and gloom about the global macroeconomic situation at the moment. But despite this, platform integration still remains a key priority for IT leaders. My question to yourselves are, why do you think that still is? Why is this important? Peter, should we go to you first? What do you think?
Sure. I think trying to maximize efficiency within a business, one, so that they're not stuck in the overhead of managing the technology, and secondly, so that those people that get a little bit of their time back can focus on more strategic things for the business. So it's all about efficiency.
Greg, does that resonate with you as well?
I would agree that, I served some of my time also, in addition to contact center, infrastructure support and the overhead of maintaining staffing, architecture, and all that is becoming really old school for a lot of people, and focusing on the true value adds in the business is key. And we're seeing that a lot in the contact center space.
Let's talk about some of those business benefits. On sites like ours and others, the integration of platforms, particularly UCaaS and CCaaS, has become a big topic. But often, the business benefits aren't always articulated clearly. Let's talk about that. What are those customer benefits for integrating platforms, the collaboration platform with telephony platforms, with customer experience tools? Greg, do you want to start us off on that one?
Yeah, from my perspective and what we're seeing with our customers is, customer experience is now jumping. It's the whole business now, and it always was, but it's not about just ordering a new pair of shoes online. It's about resolving shipping complaints, billing, order status, and being able to leap through all those silos that used to traditionally be there with one contiguous platform. Maybe those non-contact center people aren't on the contact center, but having that collab and UC platform being unified is a huge competitive differentiator and just really reducing friction in the business.
Yeah, and I think if you look at that coupled with the insights that the management gets from a really unified system like that, where they're able to find information about how their calls go and what people are actually looking for when they call, being able to leverage that kind of data really helps maximize where they're going to spend their time and their effort. And while the user experience down to for instance, the contact center agent greatly enhances their ability to support their end users. It's really the big picture that, okay, how are we using it, right? Let's make the job as simple as possible for the users that have to interface with it. But at the same time, how do I actually drive value for my business using it?
Yeah, we're seeing a lot of these kind of tools. They're generating, as you mentioned there, Peter, and all kinds of data points. Potential productivity savings, but it's what you do with those that information, I guess, is what really counts. That kind of leads into my next question. To really put a bit more context around this, in terms of what kind of efficiency or productivity or cost savings can customers expect from this integration between their UCaaS and CCaaS platforms, but particularly from a single vendor? And let's talk about that. Who wants to go first on that one?
Yeah, I'll take it first. So if you look at the efficiency of a single unified contact center with the UCaaS versus, for instance, an overlay where I get my contact center from one vendor and my PBX from another, in that case, the contact center doesn't necessarily have visibility over what that end user is doing when they're not on a contact center call. And being able to understand that and know their posture and their availability, and are they on a personal call, things like that. And while you can manage that by setting your availability and your administrative state within a system, just natively knowing that and understanding that that the contact center knows that the UCaaS is busy for something that may not be happening within the contact center really becomes important, because it makes it a lot easier for it to deliver calls to the next best available agent.
No, I would agree totally. I think thinking of the world, and Pete and I have been in this game long enough to know that we've had to do it the other way when it was all your stuff. Not having to manage the complexities between having vendor A, contact center A, and UCaaS B, and phone provider C. And one of these people will change something in the product and it breaks your whole setup. So the struggle to get that uniformity, if you're doing it yourself, is tremendous. Really joining partners like Evolve, this becomes not your problem anymore. And to business, Pete's point earlier, you can focus on true business goals, not whether some software update broke your CTI.
Yeah, and the other thing that we're also trying to do is drive it all the way down into the collab, right? So if you extend your UCaaS all the way down to Microsoft Teams or WebEx or whatever your desktop of choice is, being able to have that contact center all the way through to Microsoft Teams, for instance, same thing, right? Is being able to get that same, where it looks and feels like it's one thing as opposed to many things glued together.
Yeah, well, I mean, let's talk about that. I mean, there is a lot of, gluing together is one way of putting it, Peter, but, we're seeing lots of products being integrated together, across the space. User experience is top of mind, but, why is that still top of mind, and why does user experience, really matter right now? Peter, do you want to take that one first?
Yeah. And, we touched on it a little bit, right? But if you look at user experience, we've been talking about that for, as a topic for 10 years, but there definitely seems to be an increase in people talking about it, at least. And we see some of our customers are much better at it than others. And, the ones that are really good at it are typically also really good at, the consuming of the data that we're able to deliver to them and, get that level of insight. And so those are the ones, and maybe it's because they're the ones that have the staffing to support this or just the foresight to look at it that way. The user experience, though, when they're looking at this, they're trying to understand, how do I maximize the staff? And it's more than just that, right? It's also about staff engagement and staff, satisfaction. If you make their lives easier and if you improve that UX, they're going to be happier in their jobs. And if they're happy in their job, their customers are going to be happier because they're going to support them better. And, that's what it's all about, right? Is how do I improve the experience, not just for my people, but also for my customers? And, overall, if you can improve that UX and make the information easier for them to find, to consume, how they support their end users, the people that are trying to reach them, just increases. Now, I think you're going to see, Chat GPT is all the rage these days. And I think given how important that's become, and it's in the news just today, right? Microsoft announced that it's going to be integrated into Bing. Google at the same time today also said, hey, we also do this, right? So they're releasing theirs as well. I think as we continue down this UX journey, I think it becomes even more important. However, I think you're going to start to see more and more AI. Now, that's not to say that AI didn't exist before. Certainly in the contact center space, people are talking about how do I use it. But this is another step forward, right? It's a bigger leap. And I think if we see more and more of that get integrated into the front end and into that UX, it's going to greatly enhance, what we can do for people.
Yeah,
It's
I go right off on that. Sorry, David. Look at it just, it's Pete's point. Like UX is no longer something you heard about in a trade show 6, 8, 10 years ago. It's come to Main Street, right? And people really do in leading organizations understand that managing the agent experience, as I would say in my focus of what I do, is directly correlative to positive customer experience. Happy agents make happy customers. We've all heard the Zappos stories and so on. But even just in the user experience of what's driving it, in my opinion, look how easy it is to use your smartphone now. You don't need to be a rocket scientist to do it. And you're a user of that platform, and they're really good at managing that. And that's why people levitate to Apple or Android devices and whatnot. But Amazon, I mean, we can keep going, right? The user experience has become like it's everywhere, and people have realized like, wait, I want this for my business, and if I'm not providing, or if that isn't an example of what business types I should be providing as a business leader and having serving my customers, I need to get there. And again, we see the leading organizations doing exactly what Peter said, and it's regardless of seat size in a lot of cases. We have a 10-seat contact center we stood up for a customer, and they're all about like chat and doing chat bots and SMS, and it's like, wow, okay, this isn't just Uber Corp, whoever doing this anymore.
Yeah. It's really interesting to see it hit, all corners of the market now, as you say.
Right.
Going back to the AI thing, yeah, it feels like we're in a bit of an arms race when it comes to AI at the moment. How those kind of tools will integrate into some of these platforms as well is super interesting. So I've got a feeling in our subsequent conversations, AI is going to feature heavily in those. I want to come back to integration, though. Peter, you talked about the glue that's stitching all these things together, and not every integration is the same. There are some quite stark nuances between how companies go about this. And maybe we'll come to Greg first now, but why native integration particularly? Why is that important? And why is that important, particularly around services? Well, Microsoft Teams. Let's talk about Teams in this context.
It's the same thing from earlier, the idea of having to have this curated, bespoke thing. It's a phone call now, right? We're doing it on our telephone, I mean, on our desktops now, so having a handset, although some people are still on the far end of that adoption curve yet, they want a handset to smack on the thing to hang up or whatever. It just needs to work, right? They need a speech path, and the complexity of managing all that, and just I want to push a button, get on a phone call, visually see people, and interact, and then how that tails into contact center person. I get my call, I have my customer on the line. I don't want to have to fiddle with this or that. It's there, and it needs to almost become a commoditized thing off to the side, But it's so there's the Teams, like that's a speech path. Almost everyone can do that, but at the same time, without a lot of overhead, because there is so much penetration of Microsoft products throughout the marketplace, is I can sit here and chat with David, or if I can do a meeting with Peter at the right click of a button while I'm interacting with the customers, or I can bring them in, even though they're not in the contact center, I can make them part of the customer experience if they need to be.
Okay. Well, we're getting towards the end of the session, but I do want to leave our customers with our viewers with one thing, and that is around customers. Greg, you mentioned the customers there, and obviously the customers the most important thing at the end of the day. But what kind of expertise and support are these customers going to need? When it comes to the consolidation of all this technology we're seeing, what are they going to need when it comes to these platforms coming together? Obviously this ties into the development of that hybrid working journey as well. What do you think, Peter? Do you want to start us off on that one?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I think it depends on the choices that you make and the integrations that you have to deal with, right? If you are a company that's going to make multiple vendor selections, then expect things to be a little more complex. If you're going to choose somebody that can kind of do all of those things and minimize the amount of effort you have to do to do integrations, that should help to smooth the path there. The problem becomes really with, every customer has something unique about them, right? And that's normally going to be something on their desktop. It's going to be, what CRM are they doing? And for all of the big ones, right, that's relatively simple and you do it every day. It's the little niche ones where, maybe it's a car dealership and they've got some sort of weird thing that only they have. Those are the ones where you're going to expect a little more pain. So that's not to say that only the big CRMs or the big UCaaS players or whatever are going to be the right choice, because I think you're going to get different benefits from each of them. But level of expertise is really going to be based around the choices that you make, and also how deep do you want to go, right? And how much integration do you want? At least today, I think look at it another year or two down the road. I think things get a little easier because you're going to see, API as a service sort of become a little easier to connect to.
Yeah, Greg, I can see you nodding there on the screen. Well, tell us your thoughts on that one.
I kind of expect a change, like Pete. I would define what exactly. I agree fully with what Peter's saying there. Is I would define it in the same thing we saw in like databases, where we made a migration to not NoSQL type things, MongoDB, where you didn't have to build the structure to get the results that you were looking for. Today when we do API integration, it's a direct draw from our field to your field and how we exchanging data. And I think the sea change we're going to see next in integration there is we'll have to be less specific about it. They're lowering the bar on the level of expertise you need to achieve these goals. And the more you can do that and effectively in meeting your business goals, you're going to be a winner.
Fantastic. Well, I think that is a great place to end today's discussion. Peter, Greg, thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks for having us, David.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching. You've been watching me, David Dungay, on UC Today. If you liked today's conversation, please give us a like and a share on social media. That's it from me. See you next time.